What's up, guys? I'm BTC. A brand new roll queue system has been added to the game, and with it, some pretty substantial buffs and nerfs to a lot of characters. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe and hit that bell to get more. Let's get started. There is a brand new feature coming up called Roll Queue. This is going to allow players to pick what they want to play, either tank, support, or DPS, and you're going to make this decision before you ever even queue into the match. So you're going to know what you're going to play when you go into it. I'm going to make another video that goes more into those details on how that exact system is going to work, but in this video I want to talk about all of the hero balance changes that are going to be coming with it, because previously the game was made so that you could pick any number of whatever role characters you wanted, and they had to balance it around that aspect. But now that it's limited to a 2-2-2 system, they can make more specific, refined decisions on how they balance the characters. So let's go into it. The first is a general update for all characters. The global ultimate cost has been increased by 12%, and slowing effects, instead of stacking together, friendly and enemy slowing effects are now separate, and movement speed will be reduced by whichever is slower. What this means is, obviously, everyone is going to have a longer time getting their ultimates, but in the case of Reinhardt, for example, if you're using your shield and you're trying to back up or whatever, and you're getting slowed down by a Mei or a Symmetra, rather than stacking both of those slowing effects together, it will simply take whichever one is greater. So you're not going to be, because in the case of Reinhardt, you would be slowed down to almost no movement whatsoever, so that's going to go away. Moving on to the individual character changes, Ashe got a buff. The reload time per round was decreased from 0.3 seconds to 0.25 seconds. They felt that the total reload time, which I think is around 4.1 seconds or something like that, it's the longest in the game by quite a bit. They felt that it was just too long, and they wanted to increase her activity a little bit more and allow her to attack more often. So next up is Brigitte, and she effectively got a rework of the character. While all of the abilities are still functionally the same as they were before, there are still dramatic changes that are going to make the character play wildly different than she did before. So the first thing is the Inspire passive. The healing amount was increased from 100 to 130, and the self-healing was cut in half. So a lot more for your teammates, a lot less for you, but it doesn't really matter. It's not that big impactful because, again, you can't have those 3 and 4 tanks on your teams. Next is the Repair Pack. It now has 3 charges. Healing amount changed from 150 to 120, and it now heals for 2 seconds instead of instantly. And if you throw multiple packs at the same person, the current duration will be extended by 2 seconds, so you can stack these. I don't want to say this puts Brigitte into a main healer role. I don't quite know about that yet. I would need to test it more, but this is definitely way more potential single target healing than she's ever had. Next is her whip shot. The outgoing velocity was increased from 60 to 80. It's going to go out way faster. And the retracting time was also reduced from 0.6 to 0.3. So you can throw it out way faster, and the recovery time is a lot shorter. Next is the barrier shield. This got a massive nerf. The barrier health was reduced from 500 down to 200. So you're going to be able to use it to prevent a little bit of damage, but that's it. The days of just kind of sitting there and tanking some of that damage is gone. You can use it just to apply a little bit of that defense, and then that's it. Then you have the shield bash. The stun duration was reduced from 0.9 seconds down to 0.75. This is going to be barely noticeable. I mean, it's more gonna be an interrupt than anything else, right? So you're going to be able to hit them, and maybe you can hit them once after you hit them with the bash, but the 0.9 down to the 0.75 from the player that's getting hit with the bash, it's not gonna be all that noticeable. Next is Rally. The ultimate cost was increased an additional 10% beyond what the other ultimate cost increases were. Next up is Doomfist. This is a bit of a buff, but it's it's not major. For his quick melee, it no longer pauses the ammo reload, so it just means you can now reload a little bit faster, and it doesn't kind of wreck all of that that movement and the combos that you're doing. Hanzo got a nerf. Storm arrows, the storm arrow ammo reduced from 6 down to 5. They just felt that he was doing too much damage with this ability, so they decided to roll it back and nerf it a bit. Next is Moira. Fade can now be used while stunned, and I have to read the developer comments on this one. It says, Moira has always been good at healing and dealing damage, but she offers very little utility compared to other healers. This change reinforces her evasive nature and allows her to potentially save her team from area stuns such as Reinhardt's Earth Shatter. I don't know about that. I still think that Moira is going to lack the utility that you need in the uppermost brackets of the game. This is going to be great for keeping herself alive, but using it to keep your team alive, I'm not so sure, because usually things like Earth Shatter and Zarya's Grab are followed up by another ult or by huge amounts of damage, and just Moira by herself isn't going to be able to heal through that. This does make Moira incredibly difficult for certain characters like McCree or Roadhog or whatever, because now you can just, when you get stunned, you can just fade right out of it and get away. So this is going to massively increase her own survivability, but it doesn't necessarily make her even better of a healer. Next is Orisa. She got a small nerf. Protective Barrier cooldown increased from 8 to 9 seconds. They just felt that the shield barrier was up a little bit too much, and it was more of a nuisance. You know, you could try to destroy the barrier, and then suddenly she would just throw another one, and you would have to go through that process all over again. So they decided to nerf it just a little bit. Next is Reinhardt. He got a new passive called Steadfast, and this reduces knockback effects by 30%. This is something that a lot of people have suggested for quite a while, and now this doesn't affect things like stun or, you know, getting frozen or slept or any of that sort of stuff. This seems like it only, from the patch notes, it only affects knockback. So getting hit with a Lucio Boop or Hammond or any of that sort of stuff, or, you know, even Doomfist, all that knockback stuff is now going to be reduced by 30%. Sombra got a couple of nerfs. Duration of the hack on enemy players was reduced from 6 seconds down to 5 seconds, and the EMP, the activation time, was increased from 0.5 to 0.65. So the hack duration decrease is pretty obvious to see what it's going to do. It's just, you know, it's better for everyone else. But the EMP activation time just means that if you're kind of leaving stealth and then you try to activate it, it's going to give the enemy players a little bit more time in order to react and to potentially try to stun or stop Sombra from using that EMP. So that's basically what it does. It opens up a little bit more counterplay. Next up is Symmetra. She got some changes to her teleporter, and I'm going to toot my own horn for a second, because for a while I've been talking about what they need to do to improve Symmetra as a character, and Blizzard effectively used exactly what I proposed as the solution to fix Symmetra and to improve the character. So, it, you know, toot toot. Anyways, teleporter now lasts an infinite duration until destroyed, just like Torbjorn's turret, and players can now destroy their teleporter with the ability to input. So you just, after you place it, you can then manually destroy it again, like the turret. Cooldown now starts when the teleporter is destroyed. Cooldown increased from 12 seconds to 15 seconds. The maximum range was increased from 25 to 30 meters. And the teleporter breaks if the entrance is more than 40 meters from the exit, so if you put it on a moving platform, basically. And the teleport reuse time increased from 1 second to 1.5, which means you can't just jump in and jump out very quickly back and forth, back and forth. And they said that Symmetra's teleport is an interesting tool, but it felt too restrictive to use. Making the teleporter last forever now opens up opportunities on how Symmetra can be used in various maps and group compositions. Next up is Tracer. She got a small buff to her ultimate. The damage was increased from 300 to 350. This is primarily to deal with tanks, because most of the other characters were already going to be dealt with it anyways. This also helps to deal with Bastion because of his armor. He would be able to survive it sometimes if that was the only source of damage. But now this is going to be a little bit better against tanks. Next is Hammond. The minefield increased projectile speed from 10 to 13, causing the mines to spread out more. This makes it easier to create a wider minefield, especially from high in the air, and reduce the activation time from 0.2 seconds down to 0.1 seconds. and this just makes it so that the minefield is a bit more of a threat, much faster, and can have a much larger impact in the area. So it's just going to make the ultimate a little bit less of a, oh, you just have to kind of avoid that area now, because now if he drops it above you, now anyone that's trapped in that area takes a very serious risk of taking damage, as opposed to, oh, hold on, let me just walk over there a couple feet. So those are all the hero balance changes that they've made so far. I think it's entirely possible that they will continue to make more changes as the role queue system gets tested, both on the PTR and when it gets its little initial test run on the live version of the game in a little while. So what do you guys think about these changes, the role queue, and the rework of Brigitte? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.